Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks, for your daily live updates. Get the most out of today's episode by participating in the chat. Make sure you ask some questions, be part of the conversation, have a bit of fun, grab a coffee or a tea, take some notes, and get ready to start your day, folks. Quick few housekeeping rules, though. No spamming, no advertising or self-promotion in the chat. That's not on. Be kind and respectful to everyone when participating. And most of all, have a good time. Real estate investing can be your biggest asset. It also can be your most expensive asset when it comes to getting it right or getting it wrong, folks. It can be time-consuming, stressful, and that's why here at Positive, we have what's called a 6-star team, a full-service team that provides integrated wealth and property investing solutions and services simply designed to help you progress towards your goal of passive income through your property portfolio, folks. Make sure you check out our other podcasts on the Positive Mentor Network. Not only is there Wealth Coffee Chats, there's the Urban Property Investor. Drops every Wednesday with straight talking investing strategies and lessons with Sam Saggers. Property Investor Tales. This is where our clients, you guys, share real life stories from property investing, hosted by some of our advisors and strategists. And that's done every fortnight, dropping every Monday. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, folks, that debriefs the week that was in the world of finance and property, hosted by yours truly, Jason Witten and Andy Fenton on Fridays. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Marvellous Monday. Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are. If you think it's Get Rich Quick, you're in the wrong place. This is the wrong podcast. This is the wrong live for you. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Hope you're all awesome and well. Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats. Good to see a few of you up and at it already. Hope you've had a wonderful weekend. Get a few intros out of the way while we're warming up the live stream this morning. Good to see a few of you here already. Morning, Shelley. Early bird catches the worm. Hope you got a hot coffee or whatever beverage you're enjoying this morning, Shelley. Good to see you. Good to see a few on, folks. Jason Witten's my name. If you didn't already know, most of you know that though, but welcome along to Wealth Coffee Chats. Didn't get a chance to catch up with you last week. Had a bit of a few days off, folks, but we're back this week and we'll be full steam ahead for the whole week. For those who may not know what's going on here, you might be new, you're popping by saying hello. Maybe you found us randomly via the algorithms on Facebook or YouTube. Well, we have a little conversation called Wealth Coffee Chat each morning, 10 past 8, all about the world of property and property investing. We've been helping property investors well over 20 years now buy, find and keep, folks, which is the most important thing. Keep your properties for a long time to create some wealth out of real estate and try and sort of sort out the fear from the facts. The information that flies around these days is pretty interesting. And really, at the end of the day, you want to make sure you make some good decisions based on some solid foundations, some facts, some information that you can rely on. So that's what this show's all about. Dovetails into our coaching and mentoring program here we do at Positive Real Estate. So welcome along. Good to see a few in the house this morning. Luke's there. Morning, Luke. I hope you're well, mate. Good to see you in the house. Jeff, as always, staying out of trouble, hopefully, Jeff. Justin, morning. Good to see you. So, folks, I thought we might talk a little bit about something this morning that drives our capital growth and often the big conversation, the story, the things that we want to know about is how do we get the most out of our real estate? What drives our values? What drives our growth and how can we create the wealth we desire into the future by the properties we choose and how we buy them. And for those who know about this, you've seen this before, Sam's 4X growth plan, where he's done the deep dive in the research on what drives real estate and how you and I as property investors can buy and hopefully keep real estate to create some wealth. But along the way, there's a few things that we need to understand. You know, how do the forces out there in the marketplace deliver some growth. And, Sam's talked about sort of things like deal growth and location growth and such and so on. But today we thought we might talk about market growth, which dovetails into our mentoring subject tonight, and my guest, who's going to be here in just a little moment. But I'll set this up before we bring our guest Simon on, and we might talk a little bit about one of these driving factors or a number of them. But really, at the end of the day, folks, the big kahuna, the large forces that drive capital growth value come in different ways and shapes. And over the last 20 years, Sam sort of put them into 6 different places or 6 different driving forces. The growth of our population, we can see that at the moment where around Australia, the immigration has been driving pretty significant growth and some demand on real estate, infrastructure growth when there are big projects, expansion of cities, expansions of infrastructure. There's certainly growth in different ways, shape, form in the Australian economy and in Australian cities and towns. Economics and employment, folks, we do know that if we have jobs, people are happy. They've got, hopefully, the ability to borrow and invest in real estate and or pay the rents. We've got the idea of supply and demand. We've got yield, performance, and variation. And we've got demographics. And demographics is one of those things to understand what's going on for your portfolio for sure. There's some pretty interesting changes in the demographic. There's different momenting along right now. The largest wealth transfer in Australian history, maybe in human history, when it comes to the aging population and where money and wealth is. But today and tonight, folks, we've got a pretty special guest who's going to come along and talk about this expert subject, the idea of demographics making a big force in how we own real estate, how we choose how real estate grows in our portfolio. So I might bring our guest on with a click of a button. Hopefully, I'll get this sorted. Here we go, Simon. Good to have you on this morning.
Oh, it's great to be on.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Yourself and Bernard have been working with the demographics group, or created the information that the demographic group you've been sharing around Australia for many years. Thanks for coming on. Let everyone know just a little bit about what you guys do when it comes to the demographic research and information we might see from tonight.
Yeah, so, at the demographics group, we do nothing all day long, every day, than to look at big fat data sets and trying to figure out how the world works. And it's a self-serving narrative from a demographer, but demographics truly are the closest thing to a crystal ball that we have. If we forecast the Australian population only a decade into the future, we'll be spot on. Because we know very much how many babies you're going to make this year. We know who of you on the call isn't going to make it until next year. And as a nation, we literally dictate the migration intake. So we will pretty much get it right, the population forecast, as long as there's an epidemic throwing a spanner in the works.
Yeah.
But, taking that away for the moment, this is a growth economy. This is a growth country. We'll be adding close to 4 million people in the coming decade. These people all need to be housed. That is pretty much guaranteed. We also know where they want to live, mostly in big cities, because most of those people are still knowledge workers, people that have a job that traditionally took place in the office tower. Now, quite often, we work from home, but we see kind of fun settlement patterns already emerge that, yes, the working from home phenomenon opened up Australia to a bit of a degree, but very few people work fully remotely. Most people end up working in a hybrid manner. And so what you can still do is draw a 2-hour drive time radius around any CBD in this country. And you see inside this 2-hour drive time radius, it is growth, growth, growth. Outside of it, it's crickets. There's some sort of psychological barrier that says, hey, if I only commute once or twice per week to the CBD, I'm willing to do an extreme commute of an hour and a half or maybe even 2 hours, but not more. And so this is how we then need to think about the towns that are outside of this 2-hour drive time radius, because they, in order to grow, they need to provide jobs. Many of those have jobs. They need to provide affordable housing. They need to provide schooling and healthcare. If they have those 4 things, then we'll be right in these regional areas. But and some of those regional areas have this. They are seeing growth as well. And some of those areas don't have that. And so you want to make sure that you understand a bit of the broader going-ons in your regional areas if you should invest into a region.
And is that part of what you guys do with consulting to government and other bodies when it comes to this infrastructure and supporting those demographics in those towns?
Very, very much so. So in our consulting arm, we work quite often with local government as well, who want to clearly understand how the needs of the population are changing.
Yeah.
And some of this is pretty basic, trying to understand how many people of what age group are there, what services are associated with a certain age group. That's easy enough. But there's also a bit of a, I don't want to call it esoteric, but a bit of a softer element to demographics, where we talk about the consumer behavior of different generations and how they act differently as they age into a new stage of the life cycle. And that's fun, because you and I, we all, of course, are on our individual journeys, but ultimately we follow big global trends in our behavior. And ultimately, it is funny to see how much of a millennial or Gen Xer or baby boomer we actually are, even though we think, of course, that we are so different from all the people surrounding us. But ultimately, we're still creatures of habit.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Well, I think really that at the heart of it, certainly for our members, real estate is something that's always talked about, no matter what generation you're in, and either the ease of it or not, or whatever it might be. The demographics certainly is driving some of the styles of living, like you're saying a couple of hours. Are you seeing any large influences with this wealth transfer? That's a really interesting one at the moment.
The intergenerational wealth transfer is going to be huge. And from a demographic perspective, it is it's very easy to time. Because yes, you could transfer wealth from the old generation to the young generations while everybody is still alive. The bank of mom and dad is a way of doing this. Paying for your grandkids' childcare is a way of doing this. But ultimately, these are awkward conversations you need to have about money with your family. You need to come to terms with your own mortality. These are weird things. So structurally speaking, in Australia, we just tend to hand over wealth from one generation to the next when the last parent dies. And that's mom, because mom is 4 years younger than dad. She has 4 years longer life expectancy. That means all I need to do in order to time the intergenerational wealth transfer is count the number of baby boomer and older women and see how year after year this goes down. And we could call them deaths of baby boomer women, but that's a bit morbid. So we call it intergenerational wealth transfer. And we know exactly what this wealth transfer will do with the Australian property market.
Wow.
Because the vast majority of this wealth sits there in the shape of a family-sized home in a middle suburb of our capital cities. These homes will, over the next, 2 decades, will all enter the market, because you die out of this home.
Yes.
And that will lead first and foremost to the densification of the middle suburbs, because sometimes a cashed-up family can buy your old house as it is, but fewer people will be able to do so. So we'll bulldoze the house and we put 2, 3, 28 crappy townhouses on top, whatever we can squeeze.
Yeah.
And that leads to a densification of the middle suburbs. These are the NIMBY areas of the last decades who block development left, right, and center. So we're definitely going to densify the middle suburbs, which then creates, it should create a tiny downward pressure on house prices in these areas. That said, it completely changes the way we utilize infrastructure. And all of this, of course, happens under the big background noise of growing the country by 400,000 people or thereabouts per year.
Yeah. And do you see, there's pretty good documentary at the moment going around about the depopulation, the replacement rate in babies and demographics. I mean, Australia at the moment is pretty popular when it comes to immigration. One of the sort of top 5 destinations around the world for people to immigrate to. Do you see that playing out? How's that modeling for you guys?
Yeah. So the depopulation narrative is pretty simple. Just says that we are reaching peak humanity. So we know it doesn't matter when you were born, but you saw population growth on a global level throughout your whole life. And that will come to an end. We're now, well, depending on who you listen to, this comes to an end between 40 and 60 years into the future. So some of us might see peak human population. That's not the main important narrative for Australia, because Australia isn't importing people of all age groups. Australia is importing people of migration age, people 18 to 39. And that cohort, globally speaking, is starting to shrink in about 12 to 15 years. So the competition for migration will go up. Australia can theoretically, even in a shrinking planet, still continue to grow its population base based on migration, simply because there aren't that many wealthy democracies around where the rule of law is guaranteed. That's a pretty nice thing that we have on offer that other countries don't. So it's still plausible that at least theoretically we can continue the high migration narrative while the world still keeps shrinking. But at the very least, it means that we can't continue to charge migrants an arm and a leg for their visa fees, for the international student fees. So the competition globally for migration will increase bit by bit.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Well, Simon, tonight you're going to come along and share a bit of a deep dive into more information tonight. Maybe give us a bit of a headline of what else is on the menu for this evening for our members.
Well, we're going to talk about the big shifts. What are the main types of property that will be in highest demand? And most importantly, we're going to discuss where growth will occur. I think that's an important bit. And then we'll talk about broad structural shifts, how society has been revamped into, away from this egalitarian Australia, where everybody has roughly the same income and so forth, into a society. This is much more split into 2 parts. And how do you operate in this society? What kind of property will be in demand there? So we'll discuss that. And of course, there's time for Q&A. So I'll answer absolutely every mad question that you might come up with.
No, I like that. Well, Simon, thanks, mate. Looking forward to tonight. And really keen to dive into a bit more detail, some of these ideas, because certainly underlying it all, people need to live somewhere. And that's what we're in the investing business of, providing those houses. So looking forward to your insights tonight. Appreciate you joining us this morning as well.
Absolutely. Catch you in the evening.
Thanks, Simon. Cheers, mate. All right, well, there you go, folks. The idea that our demographics and the types of properties and what people need into the future is going to drive our wealth is a smart one to understand. So make sure you join us tonight and get your updates on those details and information. That's it from us, folks. Wealth Coffee Chat done and dusted this morning. Join me again tomorrow. We'll have another one, as we do, at about 10 past 8. You guys know the drill. We'll dive into a few things. Commercial property values are getting a little bit of a touch-up at the moment, and maybe Simon might touch on those things about work from home tonight and the change in how people are treating the office. But anyway, there you go, folks. That's what I'm going to talk about tomorrow, but we're done and dusted for today. Appreciate you coming along. Thanks for joining us, folks. Wealth Coffee Chat's done and dusted. That's it for me. Bye for now. See you tomorrow. Episode of Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a thing when we go live. Improve your portfolio and investing game, folks, with Wealth Coffee Chats live every morning at 8:10 each weekday. Make sure you join us. Previous episodes are also available wherever you get your podcasts, folks, as well as our other podcasts from the 6-Star team here at positivementor.com.au.